We're live.
Okay. So, good afternoon mga kakwentuhang cybersecurity. So again, it's Friday and it's 5 o'clock and last Pix Pro na. So today, as we celebrate the Cybersecurity Month, we will be concluding this month by discussing and elaborating more on a very hot topic in the industry today. So, which will transform the way we live, work, and play. So, transforming business and consumer experience to the whole new level. So, it's all about 5G. So, that will be our topic today. So, today will be my co-host again, VP Mia Mirafles, and our Vice Chair, Mr. Oscar Bisaya. Mia?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
VP,
Good afternoon,
Vice Chair.
everyone. Good
Okay,
afternoon.
very good. So just to give you a background, no, so in telecommunication, 5G is the fifth generation technology standard for broadband cellular network, which we began deployment worldwide since 2019. So it's 2 years ago, we've been deploying 5G already. So 5G networks are predicted to have more than 1.7 billion subscribers by 2025 worldwide. So just that's based on the GSMA Association. Now, if we go back and trace back the roots of this technology, so we began with 1G prior before, maybe in the 1990s, right? So it's just an analog voice. So if you remember the big cellular phone that we are holding to call and communicate, now the predecessor 2G, now the voice becomes digital Now with 3G, there is already a data in it which translate to, you could do already video calling and you could play games. Now with the advent of 4G, so it's a faster, high data rate capability. You could upgrade already the video quality to full HD, making streaming more smoothly. And now with the advent of 5G, this is a very low latency technology, and you compare to 4G, it could give you speeds at up to 60 megabits per second, up to 1 gig, depending where you are positioned based on the cellular network. No, so that's why this is very important topic that we will discuss today, and we are very honored that we are graced by the occasion by the two subject matter experts in the industry today, which Mia will introduce later. No. So they come from a different background, which is good. One from the telco deployment aspect as a subject matter expert, and one coming from the security vendor, which is very relevant in terms of the advent of 5G. So without further ado, I turn you over to VP Mia to introduce our esteemed guests. VP Mia?
Yes, thank you, VP Alex. Like VP Alex mentioned, we are honored today, to have not just one, but two doctors as our guest for today's KC. So mga ka-Pix Pro, let me introduce our first guest. Maybe ladies first. We have Dr. Galina Pildush. She is active in computer networking and cybersecurity industry for more than 20 years. She holds a PhD in Organization and Management, specializing in IT, master's degree and bachelor's degree, both in computer science. And for 4 years, she was an adjunct professor at Jack Welch Management Institute School of Business MBA program. Dr. Galina's passion had expanded into mobile network operator infrastructure protection, cloud security, and virtualization for more than 10 years ago. Now, throughout the years, Dr. Galina held various engineering roles, product management and architecture, and strategy and planning with various high-tech companies. She is also an active industry standards contributor for 3GPP, IETF, ETSI, an author of computer networking books and articles, a blogger, and a frequent speaker and panelist at various security conferences globally, evangelizing on MNO infrastructure security and services. She is currently a contributor to the ETSI NFV Working Group for Security. Now, at Palo Alto Networks, Dr. Galina's current role is worldwide consulting engineering, focusing on mobile network operator infrastructures, security, and services. Welcome, Dr. Galina. And also, we have Dr. Timothy Senathiraja. Dr. Tim, as we call him, is a 5G evangelist and an expert of global telco deployment. With over 30 years of experience in the global information communications technology industry, he has been part of the global mobile broadband revolution. His journey in Ericsson and later in Nokia has taken him around the globe, supporting several operators on their digital service provider transformation. His achievements include being part of the initial deployment teams of one of the first 3G network back in 2000 and later with the LTE networks in Japan. And in 2016, he carried out the first live 5G test in the Philippines. His hobby has become his career. Wow. And he is passionate about connecting the unconnected. He is an advocate of the use of technology with education to improve the lives of all members of the society. Wow. VP Alex, what can you say?
I am actually speechless with the credentials of our guest speakers for this afternoon, and really, I want to hear. I want to hear more on what they would say about the 5G technology. So, without further ado, Dr. Tim, we give you the floor to present your deck. While Dr. Tim is pulling, so I would like to greet our viewers who are here today. Ben Isra, good afternoon. Welcome again to Kwentuhang Cyber. Mr. Jerry Kawilan, our head for Smart and PLDT. We have friends from the vendor as well. Carmela De Jesus, our Vice President for Pix Pro NCR. Jules Aribon, our friend from Fortinet, is here as well, and others who are here. Thank you very much for watching. Dr. Tim, turn you over the floor.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you, Mia. Thanks, everyone, for having this time to join us in this discussion. It's quite an interesting time that we are living in today. Unfortunate that the pandemic has brought about the situation where people are not allowed to travel, and face-to-face communication has been cut down. And the good thing is the capability to continue contact with our family members and our colleagues through online communication. But we are definitely looking forward to face-to-face soon. So my presentation this evening is on 5G as an innovation platform. A quick recap of what happened in the first generation. The first generation was to cut the cable. So it cut the phone cable, allowed mobility. People could now travel and yet be contactable. And that was voice capability. The second generation improved on the first generation. It produced the second generation digital voice. At the same time, you also added in the text messaging. And most of you know that Philippines is the king of SMS. The third generation was a major revolution because people are connecting their notebooks to their 2G phones, plugging in the phones and getting the connection in and then sending and receiving emails. The question was, why not we combine that function onto the phone? And that's where 3G with the internet connectivity was a major transformation from first generation, second generation. 4G is an improvement over 3G in terms of speed, the quality. So in the speed allowed you to now not only share images or photographs, but also include video. So this is the transition that has been happening every 10 years. So let's see what 5G brings about. You notice odd number generation, a major revolution. The even number was an improvement. 2G improved on 1G, 4G improved on 3G. So 5G is the next major revolution. So to get a view of that, Brian Murdoch mentioned that in the last 30 years, we were connecting people. The next 30 years, we'll be connecting things, machines, and devices, clothes which are connected. Things like your phones are standard. You have your wearables, and your wearables are now communicating to your phone and then getting connection to the internet. So this is the connected ecosystem. So year 2000 was the digital age. 2010 is the connected age. That's when the 3G came about. 2020 is the information age. Right now, you cannot sit down and have a dinner, and when someone makes a statement, another person will whip out their phone or ask Google or Siri whether the statement is true or authenticate what happened at that time in history. So that is the information age we are in today. In the next 10 years, it's going to be very, very interesting. That is the experience age. So rather than just your mobile phone and the audio, you now experience sensory connectivity over the internet. So let's look at what brought about all this revolution. The mobile device, the revolution in the mobile device enabled people to get connected to the internet for the first time on a mobile device. And that boost brought about new industries and new services. To support that requirement, the technology revolution, the first generation, second generation, was carried out every decade, so 10 years once. And the next major revolution is going to be 6G. So recently we worked with the Global Alliance of Operators, and we have released the 6G vision and drivers. So a lot of people are asking, why are you talking about 6G vision when you're just starting to roll out 5G? It takes a decade. You need to have the standards, you need to have the devices, you need to have the network equipment. So right now we are rolling out 5G around the world, but by 2028, they will start testing 6G, and 2030 will be when the 6G network will become commercially available. So it's interesting times every decade. So what you're moving from today is, instead of just seeing and hearing, you're also able to feel it. So you have this jacket or suit that you put on and you play online games. Someone punches you, you feel the punch. You walk near a flame, you feel the heat. Then you have all these gadgets you put on your hand, your head, and you can see 360-degree view. Now, this is now coming to the industry. For example, in the medical industry, remote operation, remote surgery, you need to have this tactile feel. So for example, when the doctor is now, the surgeon is doing the operation, he needs to be able to feel when the scalpel hits the bone. He should not continue cutting further. So that is something that is being brought about with the requirement towards 5G. LTE 4G is one size fits all. It's excellent for human to human, human to machine, and basic machine to machine communication. But when you want advanced level machine to machine communication, those are the capabilities that 5G brings about. In addition to this, there are devices you plug into your headset. You walk into a rose garden and you have the aroma of rose. You order your steak and Tony Roma steak, and you get the aroma of the steak before the food arrives. So these are the feel and experience across the internet. Interesting times.
Virtual reality is when you put on a set of goggles. You can be placed on something like planet Mars. HoloLens is an augmented reality system. You can actually see through the goggles, but then what it has is another set of lenses that project another image, which is the hologram.
So these are heavy data intensive connectivity applications. So you need a lot of information arriving to those wireless devices. So the headset, the goggles, you need to have the 360-degree view, you need to have the hologram image being created. So the demand is going up. So the demand for traffic is one of the primary cases for 5G, but there are other key benefits to it. The industry revolution 1.0 started with the steam engine. The industry 2.0 came about with the introduction of electricity, microelectronics, and the ICT industry brought about 3.0. When you go to 4.0, when you have automatic guided vehicles, you have got robotics. For these, you need to have wired and wireless communication. When it comes to wireless communication, a lot of people are familiar with Wi-Fi. There are capabilities of Wi-Fi that in certain industries, it causes interference and you need something better requirement. And that's where 5G comes in. So 5G can complement your Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi can complement 5G. So the next two slides will give you a good summary of what 5G is. You don't have to remember all the key technical words, but the basic concept is all you need. When you need the technical words, search in Uncle Google, key in the information that you need, you'll get all the relevant details. But the basic thing, number one, you want more data, higher throughput. It's not only for an individual. You want the person to be able to access content, but at the same time, the different groups of people in the area also want to access the content. You're at a stadium, you're now watching a game. You want to now rewind, watch a replay, you want to get a different camera angle. So while you are seeing it live, you're also able to get a view on a digital front. And not only you, but a group of people. So the demand for data goes up. The next is more devices are connected. This becomes critical. For example, if I put the sensors in the construction of a building on the pillars, on the floor, before the earthquake, during the earthquake, after the earthquake, you will know the status of the floor, the beams, which are safe, which needs immediate attention. You know the condition of the bridge. The first responders can then go and provide assistance. So these are examples of use cases where massive connectivity becomes critical. The third aspect is instant response. If I'm now sitting in a safe environment away from the crane is now being remotely operated. When I apply the brakes, it must stop at that point in time. So it has to have that instant response. At the same time, it must be a reliable connectivity. So now we add the alphabet soup, EMBB. Instead of your LTE 4G mobile broadband, now you have enhanced mobile broadband. Instead of the enhanced machine type communication, you have massive machine type communication. And the third category is the ultra reliable low latency communication. These are the three major services that is being deployed in 5G for industrial automation, for home automation, as well as for individuals. It's a combination of these three types of services. So operators build a network, then they slice it, just like slicing a cake. Some people like more icing, some people do not like so much of icing. So you adjust it based on the type of service you want to deploy. So these are the three basics. Number 4 is in 2018, during the Winter Olympics, 5G was introduced as a showcase. But in order to do that, they needed to get the network up and running fast. So the way they worked it out, the standards were supposed to be released 2020, but they needed this in 2018. So the workaround was to use the 4G network and add the 5G radio with a big data pipe. And that's where it says non-standalone. So you might have heard this term 5G NSA. This is what it means. You get connected to the LTE first, and then you have the 5G pipe, which provides you a huge data pipe to it. The next stage is the introduction of 5G standalone. That is when you get the full benefit of 5G in addition to the capabilities that you already have been using in NSA. So in NSA, you have the mobile broadband high bandwidth. In 5G core moving towards the 5G standalone, you have the massive machine type and the ultra reliable low latency. Most of this will be relevant for industrial automation and factory automation use cases. So now, what does URLLC actually bring about? A quick recap, these are videos. The links are there in the document. If you look at the example, you have this round trip. As I mentioned, LTE is one size fits all, but 5G, you categorize based on the type of service. So in LTE, let's see how many times it has to move in order for the eye, the camera, to look at the ball and stabilize it. Now, if I go to 5G, the latency is lower, ultra reliable, low latency. Let's see how much time it takes to stabilize it in the center. That's the way the eye to the muscle, so the eye to the robot coordinates. So now you can see the main reason for the 5G URLLC is the industrial automation. And for gaming, it also makes an important role because now the first person to react the first person to evade the blow or to fire wins the game. So this is where 5G is becoming quite prominent in the gaming industry for consumers as well. So what are the promises of 5G? Number one, the high bandwidth, high throughput. Number two, the improvement in the antenna systems that you see on the towers and on the rooftop, it improves the way it gets connected. So instead of 2 beams, you can have 4 beams reaching out to your device. The next is, instead of getting the data being transmitted to everyone in a broadcast mode, you can target and send it to individual users. So the beam forming. So these are all the improvements over 4G that makes 5G amazing. So what do the antennas look like? These thin, long antennas, these are your 2G, 3G, and 4G LTE antennas. If you see this rectangle, bigger boxes, those are the 5G units. So when you're driving by next time on the tower and rooftop, have a look, you'll be able to differentiate. So this is just to give you an idea of what the 5G systems look like. In an operator's deployment, it's a mix. So you'll have outdoor towers, you'll have rooftops, you have in-building coverage, on street level coverage, because now people are demanding more and more data bandwidth. You want to have low latency, so I need to have fast round trips. So these are the services 5G will bring about. So the question now is, what will happen in the next 5 years? That is up to you. You are going to be contributing, you're going to be providing ideas, you're going to be working with the technologists to say, this is the sector I'm working in the banking industry, in the factories, I'm working in the airline industry. This is the challenge, I need a solution for this. And then we will co-develop the solutions for these verticals. In the operator side, example, in the Philippines, one of the operators, Philippines PLDT, you build a fiber infrastructure, both domestic and international. It's the same around the world. The fiber infrastructure provides you a very good connection. The part that you need for mobility, where you need people to move around, then you bring in a wireless infrastructure. And that's where 5G complements your fiber infrastructure rollout. So these are examples of what you call FMC, fixed mobile convergence.
Orange will soon be launching its 5G network. 5G is a real revolution, taking us far beyond simple mobile uses, and companies will be the first to benefit from it.
But
5G brings with it the promise of faster speeds and higher performance. Working directly with experts, maintenance operations can be carried out in augmented reality. The network architecture behind 5G makes it extremely reactive, capable of handling millions of connected objects at a time. Multiple sensors will enable sites to measure the behavior of their facilities and prevent any abnormal situation arising.
Low latency, remote control of
5G also marks the advent of real time. A drone or vehicle can be controlled remotely with zero latency. It enables precision operations that require millisecond reliability to go ahead. It will be possible to reserve parts of the network for priority uses, particularly on industrial sites, which depend on efficient, flexible, and secure connectivity. It will also guarantee smoother and more reliable care pathways, which will lead to better healthcare and outcomes for patients. What's more, 5G will allow new services to be created and new uses to be invented. And for this, it's over to you.
You are the one who's going to make change 5 years. Your ideas make. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Tim, thank you very much for that very insightful translation of the 5G technologies. Like you fast forwarded us to 5 years from now and show us what will happen. No? So that's very, very interesting. Now, before we get the perspective of Dr. Galina, let me just read some comments from our viewers, Dr. Tim and Dr. Galina. So Chairman Angel is watching us. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Angel said to you, wow, Dr. Tim, that's very interesting topic. Okay, thank you, Chairman Angel. VP Sheila is also watching. Good afternoon, VP Sheila. There's a comment here coming from Jules Aribon. He said, so many things, amazing things to happen on 5G, which is good. Thank you, Jules. And indeed, interesting times with 5G. 6G is coming as well. And there's one very interesting comment. That is cool and scary at the same time. Imagine that a medical technology being unethically controlled by cyber criminals. So that's another aspect of, we are improving on technology, but there are risks or threats that is coming behind it, right? And finally, some comments here as well. 5G was great, okay? What can you say, Vice Chair, before we give the floor to Galina on the previous discussion of Dr. Tim?
Yeah, no, I'm just taking notes, no, and I'm really looking forward to the experience age, no, because I have experienced so many ages already. I think Dr. Tim and I are in the same maturity level, as Chairman used to tell me, right? And it's exciting, digital age, connected age, formation age, and then we're the cusp of moving into the experience age enabled by 5G. And then with the advent of 6G, in about 8 years' time. So it's very exciting, but at the same time, as I think some of the comments here, it's also very scary.
Scary.
It's a good segue to our next speaker, Mr.
Correct. So
right?
You could post your questions to our televiewers or viewers from Facebook and YouTube, which brings us to another side, another fence of the 5G perspective. No, so Dr. Galina now will discuss more on the security aspect on 5G. Right. So Dr. Galina, we give you the floor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to to be part of this. Thank you very much for inviting me. Let me just start sharing. And I'm gonna put this into presentation mode. 1 second. Okay. So this is, a very spontaneous, I would say, look, and not spontaneous, but also thought through, as I've been working with many operators around the world, and not only working with operators, but also working with enterprises and standards, right, as to when it comes to security. So some thoughts as to what's happening around the world with embracement of 5G. It does vary from country to country, not only country to country, but from continent to continent. As I'm sure, you, Alex, and Dr. Tim, Oscar, you are all aware of. So some examples are in the region where the Philippines are, Malaysia nearby. Malaysia government is undertaking 5G as government-owned entity, right? So their goal is to come up with a better and cheaper service to customers. So security problems might rise from that. And what kind of security problems might rise from 5G being owned by one entity, and yet service providers, having radio access to all of these, such as RAN sharing. So Dr. Tim was sharing with you some of the architectures with G-Node Bs, which would be new nodes in our new nodes in 5G. So imagine where radio access network now belongs not to one operator, but to multiple operators, the space. And all of this is shared. Some vulnerabilities, all vulnerabilities would literally intersect each other. as traffic traverses and touches the same points. Yes. Within Singapore, the idea of Singapore government is to build smart nation. Smart nation. Everything smart. Okay, we're talking about healthcare. We're talking about smart cities. We're talking about industries, of course, whatever are in Singapore. And the idea is to have this ability to communicate anything to anything, anyone to anyone, and anything to anything. Within Canada, USA, Western Europe, I've seen embracements at various levels, depend again on which country. So a good example of some greenfield operators such as Dish in the United States that is already started. They started their 5G network and it's a standalone. We call it greenfield because it is standalone. So there are, again, this is now where their customers, Dish's native customers, are pure 5G guys. And then if there happens to be, if they happen to travel into areas where 5G's Dish antennas do not exist, then they would be attached to other operators with operators agreement then to, roam the traffic back to Dish. Okay, so these coexistences will continue. AT&T, Verizon, these are tier 1 operators in the United States are embracing, have embraced. All kinds of trials are taking place. All kinds of services are taking places, such as multi-access edge computing. So Dr. Tim mentioned some applications, and one of the categories that's been defined in 3GPP standards, such as ultra low latency. So ultra low latency, to achieve that, you've got to terminate much sooner in your traffic transmission, if you will, from source to destination. So it terminates much closer to the source. Some of these applications, as Dr. Tim was giving you actually visuals on, would be virtual reality, augmented reality. Maybe healthcare, where all operations can be done remotely, where the ability to sustain or actually survive, yes, any time delay is literally measured in just few milliseconds, if that. Okay. Now, with that, security is on everyone's mind, everyone's. And I'm talking about standards, I'm talking about government, I'm talking about enterprises, I'm talking about service providers. So yes, the old problems have been there. I'm talking about 3G, I'm talking about 4G, I'm not even going into 2G here, because that was tougher to break into, by the way. 2G, it depends, but once you've got IP end-to-end, that opens up, an opportunity to have some quote fun and to break fuses and to make a much of course much more significant impact. So imagine IoTs botanized. When I say botanized, that means impacted by embedment of some bots that could be instructed to do something. So and when I say IoTs, it could be a simple thing. The craziness about IoTs is that these devices are typically not complex because they're designed to do something very specific. If you take a look at cameras, if you take a look at smart street lights as an example, yes, their job is to just change, color, the lights I'm talking about, yes, red, green, yellow. But what happens if these devices get attacked, embedded with some behavior and or instructed to do something that they're not designed to do? So you end up in chaotic environment. You end up in an environment where you're out of control. Some of it could cost human life. And at that moment, it becomes critical problem, right? So our job in cybersecurity is to do not forget about the past, which the problems have existed, they do exist. With 5G, they will magnify, simply magnify, and get out of control. So the theoretical speed, that is being provisioned for a 5G single element is up to 10 gigabits per second each. So, if we've been talking about several megabits per second, okay, now per each, and if one of these guys begins attacking, or many of them begin attacking, the impact is there, but not that severe. We're now talking about 10 gig each being attacking someone. So just imagine all of these united and launching a DDoS attack on something else. So all kinds of fun. Now this fun, I just borrowed this picture from this source here. This fun here comes in where not all of this need to be automated, by the way, in order for an attack to happen. A lot of social engineering could happen to lead to some interesting behaviors, such as loss of privacy, such as loss of identity, for heaven's sake. And that is not gonna go away unless we take care of it, unless it is prevented from happening. So infections are, I always compare live viruses with, computerized viruses. As they spread, they mutate, right? So COVID is a good example of that. So mutations happen in computer world as well. And they can cost not only money, but lives, as I mentioned that before. So the question arises, what do standards do about it today? What have they done about it in the past? And I have to be very, very frank with you. What I've seen, with 3GPP as an example, is the security is being very, very much so bogged down to encryption. So do crypto, encrypt everything, and then you're safe. And I'll come back to that thought in a second. I would like to just describe right now NGMN perspective. So this is Next Generation Mobile Network Organization. And these words are taken from their white papers, which they've published 6 years ago, 2015. And they are very, very relevant today. So 5G is bringing this unique opportunity, which is not going to go away, but only magnify, of anything to anything, anyone to anyone connectivity. With that, it does result, it breeds big data. Big data needs to be protected against unauthorized modifications, attacks, and so forth. Core networks must guarantee high level of security. And 5G is all about services. Now, services without being secure are unacceptable as a service. So 5G should be designed with protection of the user data, preventages of any leakages in mind, right? So if 4G, when we were designing 4G, 3G networks in the past, security has always been an afterthought. In 5G, this simply cannot be afforded to be an afterthought. It must be embedded from the onset of the designs, right? Now, GSMA is another community where, if you've been to Barcelona, if you've heard of Mobile World Congresses, MWCs, worldwide is taking place in Barcelona. In fact, this week it's running in the United States and in LA. So the whole idea of GSMA is that it brings the community of literally every operator together, and some vendors participate in GSMAs as well. And these meetings, what they do is they publish functional specifications, they publish best practices. There's been best practices published about control plane that's used in 3G, 4G. And the recent one, which is very, very exciting one, is that the user plane, so in 5G, there is a separation of user plane and the control plane. User plane security is not a luxury anymore. In fact, high recommendations are that attacks must be prevented and detected within the user plane of the network, meaning as close to source of the problem as possible. Why? Because you want to put a choking point right there, because you do not want to give any opportunity or any impact of this misbehavior into the network, which would result in impacting of the services to be delivered. I do love this picture. This is borrowed from IEEE. So IEEE came up with threat vectors. So TVs, the letter TV stands for a threat vector. And as you can see, threat vectors are everywhere. As I said, once it became IP, welcome hackers. Okay, the word IP means to me hacking. Okay, so what we have here is access network. This is where those robots and things are, self-driving cars, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and so forth. They can be impacted, yes. So this is a threat vector. No longer you can trust your own devices, kind of thing, yes? Then there are smart handheld devices, such as tablets, such as smartphones. Okay, I'm not even talking about humans. Speaking of humans, right? There are humans that carry chips. Those chips are called pacemakers. So pacemaker is an example of the, an opportunity to hack a human, actually, and not social hacking. This is now cyber hacking, right? So pacemakers, my goodness, there's been a study I've read that's a couple of years old, that pacemakers, nobody ever wondered about it. Why? Is because pacemaking adjustments and or whatever else need to be done with a pacemaker is typically done in a hospital. The question is why? Why can't it be done remotely? And should it be done remotely? Why not? So pacemakers do have several hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities, and industry is definitely working on that. And how do you protect now the human is a question. Yes, you do not want some ransomware to be, pay X or else, because that's unacceptable, as you can imagine. So you have also now moving into radio base stations and edge networking. So I've mentioned MEC, multi-access edge computing with its servers. These must be protected. These are for time-sensitive applications. Absolutely, that's another threat vector. Interconnectivity between radios and to the core is the threat vector 4. Then you've got 4, core elements itself, where the 5G core elements are within a service provider space, or it could be enterprise, because there are formulas out there that do offer private 5G network, okay, within the enterprise, with MEC elements and so forth. So that's another threat vector. And of course, good old internet. We've heard of it, we know it's there, it's happening, and so forth. So I do like this diagram. Why? Because it actually addresses them all at the moment as to where the threat vectors do come from. So let me bring some other standards, and that is ETSI. So ETSI NFV security has been really focused on NFV, network function virtualization security. And the security team, the security group focus has been around, how do you protect VMs themselves? How do you protect the Mano, the orchestrator, and different elements? What kind of vulnerabilities could there be within? How do you securely bootstrap? How do you securely onboard, and so forth? Now, 3GPP, on the other hand, is actually writing 5G standards, and they are using NFV as the infrastructure. So 5G is one of the use cases for NFV. So NFV is a much broader scope than just 5G, okay? Because network function virtualization could take place outside of 5G realm. So now, saying all of what I said, at the same time, ETSI and NFV guys are looking into what 5G guys are doing, 3GPP people are doing in 5G. And of course, they're seeing that, 5G is getting containerized, meaning it's not using VMs anymore. So hence, what we're doing in NFV security, we're expanding NFV to contain now containers and discussing container security. There's a lot of work going on. It's an ongoing work on API securities for tokenization. So I'm talking about between NFV or VMCN's elements, and that applies to, of course, use case would be for 5G SBA architecture, the tokenization, and what kind of, encryption and crypto must take place, and so on. Security management is part of the conversation. Isolation of trust domains within NFV, that's another conversation. And the infrastructure assurance, security assurance is there too. I'm thrilled about this group. And this is a new group within ETSI ISG. It's not NFV, it's ETSI ISG. And it is encrypted traffic integration, ETI. I am thrilled about this group specifically. Why? Because finally, I see realization that crypto by itself does not mean security, okay? So it depends where the crypto is done. Crypto, if it's done on the transport, my favorite formula there is that crypto done on a transport, all it does, it assures that everything is sent securely, okay, including malware. So with that, other things that come in my mind are, and what about, how long does it take to decrypt anything with quantum computing? That is there. It's a bit expensive right now, but it's there. It will take nothing to decrypt. I don't care how many bits. So crypto will be capable or will be able to be decrypted unless we do quantum cryptology. So that's a different topic altogether. It's an exciting other topic. But this group specifically is focusing on defining requirements and identifying use cases of encrypted traffic integration techniques to mitigate against threats to networks and users, right? Because the threats to networks and users is still there, even when crypto is used. So automatic assumption that if I encrypt, then I'm secure, do not work. They simply do not work, right? If the assumption is I encrypt and then I don't care, then that would work. But if I want to truly secure, it simply does not work. So that brings me to my favorite three elephants, with a planet Earth on top that embraces cloud, network, edge. Yes, today. And these three elephants are, we have service providers, yes. We have government and users, yes. And then we have vendors. So when we work together, we can be assured that this planet Earth is not gonna drop and it's gonna be done in a secure fashion. So 6G, Dr. Tim mentioned, I'm flying with 7.5G, which is projected, if it ever hits, maybe they'll keep the 0.5 into 2045. But all I'm saying is that legacy will continue coexist for a while. We cannot forget about threat vectors that have been there for years. And then on top of it, we have new challenges. But together, I'm sure we can be very, very secure. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Galina, for that very well explained topic on security aspect of 5G. Actually, this topic is very close to our heart, Mr. Chairman and President Ace, because our company is now deploying massively 5G technology, and now we are in cybersecurity. This topic keeps us awake at night, no? Because how we will secure this is another another story, more than securing the infrastructure, but securing the 5G as well. So before we go on, there are some questions that are flooded to our channels. Now, VP Mia, you want to ask a question to our esteemed guest speaker? Oh, Mr. Chairman, good afternoon.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Good
Good afternoon. Afternoon.
Mr.
Good
Chair.
afternoon, Dr. Galina, and
Good
thank you
afternoon.
very much for accommodating our request. It was a very scary presentation.
I hope not that
Yeah.
scary.
You scared us.
I didn't
What
hear
about
anybody
Dr.
flying
Tim?
there.
Dr. Tim, are you still here?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Yeah, there you are. Thank you, Dr. Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the longest time, we wanted to have you here to talk about 5G. So
Thank you
it's
for this
finally,
opportunity.
I was listening on Facebook while doing my something important. So as I mentioned, no, it's this session is a combination of innovation and cybersecurity, and
right.
without innovation, the country would be stagnant. But without cybersecurity, the country would go back to Stone Age.
Yes.
Very quickly, yes.
Okay, so thank you. I just greeted. Go ahead, VP Alex.
Yes, VP Mia, when you do want to read some questions from our viewers.
Yes, actually, we have a question from Fides Servanda. I think this is for Dr. Tim. So 20 years ago, when internet was dial-up, it was called, information highway. What is it now? Lightning speed information?
It's a very good question, because right now it's all at lightning speed. It's now referred to as the information superhighway. Like in Germany, you have the Autobahn. So now they call it the Infobahn. It's
That's
just
a good
moving
one, Dr.
faster and faster. So the Autobahn, Infobahn, and then the superhighway is the usual term they refer to today, because they're talking about gigabits per second moving to terabits. From country to country connectivity is in terabits per second.
Yeah. So a follow-up question on that, Dr. Tim. So a while ago, you showed us, the picture of the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This is what will it be because of the innovation of 5G. So maybe
Yes.
I want to take a step back and relate this to our common viewers here in the Kwentuhang Cybersecurity. No? So how do you think will 5G transform the consumer experience, our normal user experience, and the way that people live moving forward?
So with the advent of the high-speed capabilities, you can see there's a lot of people now doing conferencing, video conferences and sessions just on the tablet. So most of the time, I'm just using this phone for all the meetings. Even my presentation is on the phone and I present direct. If it is like a group seminar like this, then I use my notebook. So people have moved from desktops to notebooks, notebooks to mobile phones. The next major change is the goggles. If I have the goggles, why do I need a phone? I can see the information in front of me. I can watch a 50-inch screen projected in front of me. I use audio communication to call someone, to search for information. We're already doing that with Siri, with the different services that we have, Bixby and so on. So that will be the transition. But when you go to that transition, there are two major problems. One, how much can I store on the glass? So everything has to be in the cloud. Then how can I always be connected, always online? Without even thinking about it, you switch on the light, you assume electricity is there. You put on the specs and you just say, hey Siri, or hey Google, and then you just continue. Okay, my phone is not responding, sorry. So
I have
so
a concern, Dr. Tim.
Yes, sir.
having been exposed and actually experienced, no, on the side of ethical hacking and actual penetration testing, no, on the distributed denial of service side of the spectrum. I would like to ask later Dr. Galina about this, because before and until today, bots are being dropped and installed on PCs and laptops. Right now with 5G, and with IoT, billions of IoTs to be connected to 5G, which will then take advantage of the giga or the 500 MB or speed. And we know IoTs. It's difficult to secure IoTs because number one, the processor is limited, the memory is limited. You cannot really install any security solutions or software there, which it widens the attack surface. Now, if I'm the attacker, I can drop all these tiny bots that can be controlled centrally, and if I have billions of these gadgets that I can use to send a distributed denial of service attack, I think I'd be able to bring down a country. Dr. Galina, is that something that's within your radar, or I'm just that paranoid?
No, yeah, you're actually not paranoid, and that's the paranoia that I have too. Yeah, so the bandwidth's unprecedented that each of these things could get, and of course, you know, with as the number increases in front of letter G, meaning 6 and so on, we are into even higher speeds than that. So something must change. Something must change. And you know, I'm thinking that in terms of processing, I've mentioned quantum. So I definitely see that in few years hitting the road kind of thing in a huge way. But with that, you know, a lot of this is going to be quote cloudified, and prevention is the best way, you know, to cure any problem is a prevention. So cybersecurity intelligence, all right. So we are progressing not only on the technology itself, but we're also progressing with the algorithms and what is done from the machine learning perspective. Yes, including neural networking and machine learning as to how these things can be pre-recognized before they actually hit someone. Yes, and that is the key. It truly is the key. So machine learning, deep learning, all of these buzzwords are actually happening as we speak. It will take somewhat time, and you know, when I look into threats, I break them into three three verticals. One is known, the other one is unknown known, and the third one is unknown. Okay, so known, we know what that means, right? Then unknown known would mean that it is a brand new zero-day attack, but it is within a known environment. Okay, so I know this environment, I can sandbox it, I can quickly compute and you know, within a matter of milliseconds understand what that guy is, right? And then there is unknown. And this one is today does require human intervention. So hunters, we're talking about cybersecurity, you know, hunters, right? Oh. That are doing the predictable thing. In other words, the environment is completely unknown what that is. That's the, yeah.
What, because as we speak, you know, more and more countries are already fully engaged with 5G. Mm-hmm. How far is cybersecurity behind 5G?
So excellent question, absolutely excellent question. And my answer to you would be, it depends. so when you ask how far, it depends who, it depends which perspective, it depends which angle. You saw there are many, I would say, variables into your answer, right? Into the formula to give you an answer. So if we are to have an enclosed environment, so let me describe to you a scenario. Let's assume it's pure standalone 5G. So I'm parking consumers for now, and I'm into enterprises right now. Okay, right. So if I'm with enterprises, we all can, do offer 5G to these, environments, into these networks securely today. Why? Is because we're dealing with, enclosed infrastructure. So there is slice security, as you know, right? So slicing, how do we secure this? How do we secure the edge devices and so forth? For the IoTs, as I said, it is simple because it truly is, because the IoTs are located somewhere. Now, if you take a different type of an IoT and chippinize the plane, those are also IoTs. The plane moves. So you do the same with a train, you do the same with a car. It becomes a bit more complex because it's out of where it is. It moves everywhere. It is almost similar to a phone, to a UE that also moves around everywhere. But with that, it is also simpler versus this guy. And the reason is because this guy is multifaceted. It can have several dozens of applications, different types running at the same time, simultaneously. So versus an IoT device that might have maybe one app, two apps, maybe, and they're predictable as to what they are. So the behaviors, therefore, are predictable as to what they are. Which implies, by the way, speaking of crypto, it becomes irrelevant. So crypto, park it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Behavioral
analytics could be done even if it's encrypted, speaking of that. But
that's another topic.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have questions from the audience, VP Alex.
Yeah, VP Mia, do you want to read some of the questions from our viewers?
Yes, VP Alex. Actually, there's one interesting here. I think Dr. Tim can help us with this. This is from Fides again. How do you combat campaign against 5G having adverse health effect?
If you don't mind, I can share one slide.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay.
This is a very common question, even on 4G, on 3G, right? The health effect, yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe to follow up on that, there was this, I don't know what kind of insinuation that COVID-19 actually came from 5G. So maybe it's time for us to settle the score, Mr. Tim, Dr. Tim.
You're welcome.
Putting you on the spot, Dr. Tim.
I've got several links that I can provide, because it's good that people are concerned, and anything new people are afraid of. But then we need to clarify what are the science and facts behind it. So if you do receive some of this information on your social media, in WhatsApp or in Instagram, I would like to request that you check this online on whether it is real or not. For example, the technology that we have deployed 5G today is based on the 4G, the radio spectrum, which is called non-ionizing. The higher end of the spectrum, which is ionizing, like the X-rays, those are dangerous if you are exposed for a long period of time. That's why when a parent accompanies a child to take an X-ray, the radiologist will give a shield, lead cloth they can wear on top, and you stand next to the child while they're taking the X-ray. So those are the precautions you need to take if you're using ionizing. Ultraviolet high-end rays are ionizing. That means it can cause damage to your cell. Non-ionizing has been tested, has been checked all these years to ensure that it is safe. So there's two aspects to it. One is it is non-ionizing. The second is, what is the power level? So for example, I have a light right in front of me to illuminate so that I can be seen in this camera session. However, if I bring the light from a stadium, the 10,000 watt light, I cannot put it in front of me and sit here. Within a couple of seconds, it's too hot. So one is the power level. The other is whether it is harmful or not harmful in the spectrum itself. So the radio technology has been in use for over 100 years. So my request is please check online when you come across all these things. Like COVID, they said it was spread through 5G. Virus cannot travel on electromagnetic radio waves.
Of course.
It's good. People are concerned. So it's good to have this concern, but please verify with science. The second thing is countries that do not have coverage of cellular still end up with the COVID situation. So that is, it's a check and balance that we need to do. The second part is, what if I am going to be exposed to it? There are organizations that control the power levels. For example, you're using a phone, and in the US, they have got these different standards. In Australia, they've got different standards. In Philippines, we have got standards. And that is something that has been carried out. And in Australian standard, and most countries, they follow this, which is 50 levels safer than the hazardous point. So there's a huge buffer already, 50 levels safer. And when they did the study in Australia, so Telstra did a study, and they found that the base stations were 1,000 to 5,000 times safer than the safety level. But all this would not have been done if people were not concerned. So my advice is, if you have concerns, please check and please verify. We have got several doctors in the Philippines in the radiology team who have explained what the Department of Health has done. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has clarified, and the regulatory for telecommunication, the NTC, ensures that the devices brought into the Philippines must match these standards, must match the safety requirements. And when the operators deploy something, it must also be in those safety levels. So the one that most people are afraid of is they hear the word millimeter wave. But the millimeter wave is still a non-ionizing. So that's where the safety. My request is please verify online, and you will find a lot of good information.
Yeah. Dr. Tim, I couldn't resist on when you said, COVID transfer through electric wires. The cyber COVID might.
Cyber COVID.
so if we cybernize it, I guess, cybernize it.
Cyber bioweapons.
Agree.
Because now there's machines that print food. There are machines that can print meat, they can print pizzas. So if you were to change the chemical factors in there, then it could be different.
If that happens, Dr. Tim, I'm sure the cost of printer inks will also go up.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tim, for clarifying that health scare issue with our viewers. So, another interesting question here. I think this is directed to Dr. Galina. No? So, how do the security risk of 5G compare to those presented by 3G and 4G? So that's a comparison, Dr. Galina.
Right. So if I look into 3G, 4G. What we have is an environment that is based on hardware in 4G and 3G. So you have network elements that are based on hardware as opposed to VMs or CMs. Okay, so let's just park that as one point. I will come back to that in a second. The other difference is that you've got so many less devices. So many fewer devices with 3G, and the bandwidth that is available to each of these devices is so much less than in 5G. So let's take a look at 5G. 5G is based on virtualization. So virtualization implies, and 5G architecture is so much broader, is much more complex actually than 4G. I'm talking about core itself. So with that complexity, every complexity raises other opportunities, I would say, for black hat guys to do something, for adversaries to attack. Virtualization on its own implies that you've got to, earn root of trust. So are your servers secure? What about the orchestration and so forth? So there are many, many more moving parts with 5G. So that brings the complexity in its own. And all of these, I always say, all of these standards are written in plain English, available to public. So the minute IETF publishes IP standards, they are available to you in public, and that's what hackers do read and or do things with. And of course, I've mentioned already 10 gig. We're talking about billions of devices, billions. So each human already carries, more than one device. Right?
Agree.
And
Agree.
now embed those IoTs, little chipsets, in everything that surrounds you. We're talking about smart fridges. I am viewing from my laptop. I could see my neighbor's refrigerator, and it's a free Wi-Fi. Hello. No passwords are up there.
Oh,
so if that smart refrigerator is actually, application is running to do something smart with it, I can impact what is going to happen to that refrigerator, So I don't have to go far.
That's why
I don't even know which one that is, by the way, because there are many neighbors here.
Dr. Galina, that is why I don't buy a smart TV. Because I'd be thinking I'm watching my TV, but the reality is my TV is watching me.
You just have to get the firewall up there to your home. I do have several smart TVs. I'm not joking. And I have a network in my house.
Exactly. Like, and there's only very few of us who understand this, how to prevent, right? 99.99% of the internet users, they're just users, and imagine the catastrophic impact if everyone is compromised.
The very good example is the IP camps. You can buy online IP camps coming from all over the world, and the default password is not changed. So there is a website. You have more than 40,000 camera views from restaurants to homes to factories and warehouse. You can go and choose the country, choose the city, choose the street, because it has GPS information and the IP information, and you get to see a live stream. So that's why when you look at all this, I agree with Dr. Galina, you need to have security.
It's very dangerous to put a camera inside your house or inside your room.
I don't have one for me.
My cameras are all blocked actually, because there is malware out there that could be taking pictures and you're not aware of this. It's a very, very low level within the device, so you wouldn't even know that is sitting there, and it just photographs everything. And even voice, like when it comes to voice, that is also recorded without you knowing it. So it's not only the cameras. You gotta, And the GPS, speaking of that devil, I mean, there is malware that could trace you down as well. Just knows where people are. So.
A very, very interesting topic. As a matter of fact, we exceed already our time.
I know.
But we're still, alive, and our viewers still here listening to us. No, But just to sum it up, we cannot extend more on this. So we ask a final words from our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Tim and Dr. Galina. What are your final words for our viewers today regarding 5G?
Dr. Galina, go ahead first.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tim. So my final words. I think we're into exciting times. So think about it positively. Be cautious. Never lose that, please. So approach new technologies with caution, and always remember, protect yourself and those around you. So in fact, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use this COVID analogy. Do not wear a mask. That does not apply. But you are proceeding with caution when you are, when it hit us. So imagine in cyberspace, it's there. It is always there. Be it a prick call, be it some weird SMS message, or be it something that you do not even see, and it happens. So be careful who you talk to if somebody calls you, because social engineering will always be there. So with that, I am sure we are into exciting times. Yeah. So pleasure to be here, and thank you. Thank you for inviting. Yeah.
Thank you again, Dr. Galina. Thank you for the final words. Dr. Tim, it's your turn.
I like the statement that I was presenting at another seminar, and they said, do things which are impossible. So that's where the innovation part of 5G. 5G is just a connectivity. What you do with it, the ideas you come up with, is what's going to change the industry. In 2012, when LTE was introduced, nobody heard of influencers, YouTubers, and that whole industry was created, something that was never thought of. If you want to be a media producer, you need to have a lot of money, you need to have expensive cameras. Now you just get a simple phone, and then you are a YouTuber. You have sit down silently in your room, record it for 4 hours, and 1 million people watch you sitting there silently for 4 hours. It's a different mindset.
It's altogether. A different mindset.
And then someone spends
someone is sleeping.
Yes, exactly.
Someone is sleeping.
And you see the number of views, it's like 1.4 million.
Oh my God.
So the thing is, be innovative, think outside what you are normally working in, because you are the ones who's going to come back with the ideas. And if it's something that's impossible, just move the letter I, put an apostrophe, put a letter M, put a space, and change impossible to I'm possible.
Yes.
Wow.
The more crazy the idea is,
yes, the better
you will make the world. Thank you.
Yes, I'm holding my thumbs up.
It's a very nice one, Dr. Tim. I love it. Vice Chair Oka, any parting words for our viewers?
Yeah, create possible. That's my tagline always. No, in life and in business, as they say. And I think this Casey is all about creating a possibility to broaden the discussion around 5G and its infinite possibilities, right? Innovation, changing lives for the better. But at the same time, how do you secure that innovation so that it can continue to flourish, no? And move our country and our kababayans forward, no? So this is just the first of a series of 5G conversations. And so watch out for that. Thank you so much, Dr. Tim and Dr. Galina.
Thank you, Vice Chair Oka. Mr. Chairman Angel, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I have a very strong words for Dr. Tim. You innovate, bring it on. We will secure.
Bravo!
Like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. VP Mia.
Yes, I actually really enjoyed the session today, no? And I look forward to what 5G will offer us. It's really very exciting, augmented realities, connected homes, and probably, I hope driverless cars. So, but then again, as we get excited. I just want to echo what Dr. Ganina mentioned earlier, that in terms of security, old problems will coexist with the new ones. So let's not forget about the past, because as she mentioned, it will not go away, but what's certain is that 5G will magnify that. So we probably have to be paranoid 10 times or more. That's all for me, VP Alex.
Thank you, VP Mia. For me, as we embrace new technology, new innovation, we never should lose sight on the security portion, or else we'll get, as Mr. Chairman coined it, we will be kicked back to the Stone Age, right? So never lose sight of that. But innovation is good. Innovation is very positive. It will transform how we do our businesses, how we do our lives, but never lose focus on security. And I like the final slide of Galina that, this is an ecosystem, right? Service provider, governments, and the vendors collaborating together, like the PIXPRO mission of, PIXPO Protect PH Cyberspace. So let's help each other to have a safer cyberspace for everyone. So with this, thank you very much, Dr. Tim, Dr. Galina. We sum
Dr.
it up.
Galina, thank you. Dr. Tim, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy weekend to all. And as we always say, happy weekend lang for cybersecurity professional. No weekend.
Happy lang. Happy.
Happy lang. Walang weekend.
All right. Happy weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.